Hello dear colleagues, we hope that week 1 was very relevant and very interesting for you, and we hope that you are ready too for this upcoming week in which we are going to explore our third category. This one is cognition. This category is very interesting and very important because here we link thinking skills that students are developing to the number of topics that we already identified in the category content. Let's imagine that contents are little pieces of food, and thinking skills are going to be those processes that students need to carry out in order to sort of digest these little pieces of food. So this is why we need something to process, and we need the processes themselves as a big part of this category. So we need both thinking skills and contents. Our big goal in this category is going to be to propose appropriate cognitive challenges. And here it is very important that we have a commitment, that we commit officially and explicitly to having appropriate cognitive challenges. Not too easy, not too hard, because they could be either too frustrating or too boring. So this is the purpose, to have demanding activities that are appropriate to what students can do, what students can say, and a little more. The step further, the +1. This +1 refers to the way we are demanding a little more from our students and helping them to reach a step further and a higher stage. So in this category, we are going to build progression in thinking skills and also progression in problem-solving skills. This is the main purpose, and the idea is that our syllabus reflects these purposes as well. Our eyes are going to focus now in this category in two things, which are basically the same: thinking skills, or otherwise called cognitive processes. The idea here is that we identify all of those actions that students are doing with their minds. What is happening in our students' brains? And a little tip here, and something very important to mention here, is that these actions really need to refer to something that students' minds are doing. So these actions need to be introduced by a cognitive verb. Okay, whenever we talk about cognition, it's highly important and we need to refer to two concepts and a taxonomy. The two concepts are LOTS, lower order thinking skills, and HATS, higher order thinking skills. What are they about? Well, some cognitive processes are easier or are less demanding, a little more basic than some other processes. The more basic cognitive processes are lower order thinking skills. The ones that are a little more complex, a little more demanding, they are higher order thinking skills. In this sense, and for instance, identifying, recalling, and remembering are thinking skills that do not demand a lot from our students' minds. Well, when they are high school students, for example, when they are very young learners, they need to develop these basic thinking skills, and well, it's not going to be as easy as if it were for us grown-ups. Examples of HATS, higher order thinking skills: creating, evaluating, analyzing, because these are processes that need some more basic processes in order to be able to happen. The taxonomy that I was referring to is Bloom's taxonomy. Probably you have already gone through this, you have already heard about this, but it's very, very meaningful because it really gives us good insights as to all of the nice repertoire of thinking skills that we can develop among our students. And it also tells us which ones are less demanding and which ones are a little more complex. And there is more, because that's not the end. We have found a guide, and I'm going to show it right now, and it's going to be available in the online course, and it tells us also the cognitive processes that we can develop among our students, but also the products that we can get when we develop those thinking skills. So it tells us the actions and also the activities that we can carry out. For example, if we would like our students to create, well, the action is designing, planning, producing, making, and the product that probably shows that students are understanding and that students are thinking, the outcome can be a film, a story, a project, a plan, and so on. So if you would like students to evaluate, to analyze, to apply, here there are plenty of ideas, and this copy is going to be available in the online course whenever you need it, and also we think it's going to be useful whenever you plan and whenever you work on the syllabus at your school. And that's still not the end, because now we have a more complete Bloom's taxonomy, and it also gives us, and it keeps on giving us more insights and more actions as to all of the thinking skills that students can develop throughout the year. Because that's very important, that we vary the thinking skills that students are going to work on. It's very important that we provide multiple opportunities for them to explore different abilities and for them to actually take advantage of all of the abilities and all of the knowledge that they have in terms of their understanding and in terms of their cognitive development. So let's go back to the presentation. And it's still not the end. We have also found an iPadagogy wheel in which it tells us a number of iPad applications that are organized according to the cognitive process that you would like your students to work on. Here, as you can see, there are many Web 2.0 tools and iPad applications, iPad apps. So if you have the time and if you have the will to actually explore them, please feel free to do it. And if you have the time to do a review, for example, and if you tell us, hey, I already got the review, would you open a space for us to share it? We can do that in our platform, so that we have this space in which we can share the tools that we have explored. So this is just a little bonus, a little extra about Bloom's taxonomy related to Web 2.0 tools and iPad applications, which we thought it was very interesting. And in this point, you might be wondering, hey, but what is the sense of having cognition in our syllabus? I mean, if it's a language class, if it's English class, why cognition? I mean, why not the list of verbs, the list of adjectives, the list of vocabulary, the grammar tenses, and so on? Why not all of that? Well, since we are expanding our view as English teachers, this is a kind of development, cognitive development, that we cannot leave behind, that we cannot leave aside. And this is why we need to explicitly have the intention to include it in the plans, so that we do not forget about them, and so that we build a coherent path, and so that we trace a clear way that students can follow, so that they develop the number of thinking skills that they are going to need for real life. So here is also a good moment to reflect upon the fact that we want students to be proficient in English or proficient in a foreign language, but also intelligent. We don't want, or we wouldn't like, we cannot only aim at students who only speak well or who have a good level of fluency, but also students who have something to say, who have an opinion, and who have content in all of their sentences. So we don't want, and the purpose is not to have only proficient students in terms of communication, but also intelligent students. The world is actually needing them and needing us in that sense. So we have a thinking box, and this thinking box is going to be the activity for this week. This thinking box has a number of questions that we have to ask ourselves, and if we have the chance to ask a colleague about them, that would be wonderful, especially our colleagues in the same institution in which we are working. So in the discussion forum, please share the answers for the following questions. Which thinking skills do we develop in our syllabus? Let's try to identify just a couple of them, a number of them, probably 5, 6. What are the most common thinking skills that we are promoting right from the syllabus so that we develop them in real lessons? Which ones should we develop? And this means which ones are we leaving behind, which ones are we leaving aside, and that we are not developing right now, but that we should. How can we nourish this repertoire of thinking skills so that students have multiple opportunities to develop their thinking skills? And here you can use the guide that we have just showed, and also the iPadagogy wheel, because as we said before, they can give you insights about the number of actions that students can do with their minds. Are these cognitive processes related? Are they balanced? Are all of them higher order thinking skills? Are they too demanding and probably are we leaving behind the lots? Or are they too easy sometimes and probably we could ask a little more from our students? So are they balanced? Are they all hats and lots? And last but not least, to what extent and how are students' minds engaging with the content? And this is a very, very relevant question because we need to make sure that students actually care about understanding a number of topics in our lessons, because they actually find an explicit purpose and an explicit sense in such topics for their real lives or for their personal lives. Okay, whenever we talk about cognition, we really need to talk about solving problems as well, because they are learning scenarios in which students put into practice different cognitive processes. For example, only by giving a problematic situation to a group of students, they are identifying, for example, the characteristics of the situation. They are analyzing the situation in order to understand it better, deconstructing it. They are applying the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, all of what they can do and all of what they know. They are evaluating as well. Is this situation more accurate and more appropriate than this one? Why is this one better than that one? So they are also evaluating, and for sure they are creating, because they are coming up with their own solution. They are creating it right from scratch because they are making it up. If they are done in groups, they are going to collaborate, they are going to cooperate, and they are going to get more and more ideas, different opinions that probably help them to reach a better product or a better solution. We also need to think about the kind of questions that we ask in our English classes. Are they related to the students' ability of memorizing? What is the conjugation of? What is the opposite of bright? Dark. Are they always closed questions, or can there be, for example, open-ended questions? So let's go through a number of different kind of questions that are going to help us nourish our repertoire of questions, and that also have the intention to explicitly to have the intention to develop and foster different thinking skills among our students. So reviewing questions are those questions in which students only tell us if they have memorized, if they are able to remember, right? They have only one specific answer, a concrete answer, and only one right answer. Okay, we need to expand, we need to go beyond. There are also procedure-related questions, which are questions in which we make sure that students are following the process, that students are following up the instructions. So, as we can see, these questions are related to students' attention. Generative questions. These are questions in which we get to explore. Probably the teacher doesn't even know the answer, but if all of us get to explore and to join somehow an adventure, we can discover many wonderful ideas and knowledge by ourselves. So generative questions are a very nice idea and also very meaningful opportunities for students to reach different possible answers to only one question. So this means that generative questions are somehow open-ended questions as well. Constructivist questions. These are the ones in which students need to really link what they knew before to something that they need to explore. So these are very meaningful as well because students are developing higher order thinking skills. They need to evaluate, they need to interpret, and they need to link. They need to put everything together. And last but not least, facilitating questions, in which by having a debate, by exploring together, by discussing and supporting our answers, we reach better understanding of a topic, right? Because by supporting our answers and by listening to other people's opinions, we can always get more insights and we can have a clear view of a situation. CCQs are also important. They are a pedagogical concept that refers to comprehension checking questions. For example, if we have a class and students are told to color and share their drawings, we can ask, or instead of asking, what do you have to do? Which always ends up in a very messy situation, no, here, or many different, very different answers. We can ask, are you going to cut and paste? No. Are you going to stand up and be noisy? No. These carefully thought questions are going to have a better command of the class and also to make sure that students really understood what they had to do. So our big point here is, hey, let's carefully think our questions to see if students understand, to stimulate our students' minds, and not always to foster memory skills or systematically memorizing a list of verbs and a list of conjugations. So we check for understanding in an implicit but also explicit way. All in all, cognition is a very wonderful category that refers to students' cognitive processes, all of what they can do with their minds, with their brains, and also our commitment as English teachers to having appropriate challenges for them. Not too easy, not too difficult, and also to have a varied repertoire of thinking skills so that they get multiple opportunities to develop not only lower order thinking skills but also higher order thinking skills. They need to be varied because the world is big and they are going to need to be able to do different things in real life. So don't forget to share the answers in this discussion forum of the questions that we provided before, and we are going to see you in our next category, culture. Don't miss that out, and we hope that this was very complete for you. This time we are going to ask you to reply to 2 of your colleagues, because we are a big community in Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, Ecuador, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Nicaragua. So it's very interesting and also very meaningful and valuable that you get in touch with each other. So let's take advantage of technology in that sense, and let's reply at least twice to the answers of our beloved colleagues. So see you in culture.